Hello again, and welcome to another episode of Lorehammer for the free city of Moltenheart. Um, Last time we went through the free history of the free city and up to the point where the Skaven invasion had forced the Duarden of the Hold to flee and ultimately to either ascend into the skies or to retreat to Azerheim as the gates were closed. So what I'm going to do now is we're going to talk about the end of the Age of Chaos, and I'm also going to send a couple of pictures of some of the early models that I painted to go with my free city. I thought as for the next couple as we go, I'll add some more photos of painted models just to give a little bit of modelling stuff to go with the story. I wrote the story initially and then wrote or designed the models to match the story, and then amended the story a little bit as we went, as we'll see as we go on. So anyway, the ending of the Age of Chaos and new alliances. The Age of Chaos came, and the memory of Carax-Unclad was forgotten by all but the dwindling number of descendants whose line could be traced to the Duarden who had fled their homes many generations before. In Azerheim, these descendants toiled like so many of their kin, producing weapons and armour for Sigmar's Stormcast chambers, but the memory of their mountain home in Chamon remained alive, the stories of the Longbeards. Passed down from generation to generation, the memory of what was stolen from them and the grudge they bore against the Skaven festered. When Sigmar's war reopened the realm gates, the last descendant of the once great kings of Carax-Unclad, a fiery young warden king named Scaly Cavenheart, resolved to make the journey to Chamon with all that was left of his kin, several thousand stout Duarden warriors, in an attempt to reclaim his lost homeland. Even amongst the dispossessed districts of Azerheim, many doubted the young king's ability to complete such a task, and in truth, even the legendary tenacity of the dispossessed would not likely have seen Cavenheart's quest reach fruition were it not for an unlikely ally. Lord Ordinata, Carathian spirit walker of the Blacked Maelstrom Stormhost, had been shaman to a tribe of human primitives on the Adaya plains of Chamon prior to his reforging. His tribe had long known of the great magic of the Crimson Mountain, and as a shaman attuned to the vagaries of the winds of magic, Carathian was already aware of the great power beneath Carax-Unclad long before he was remade upon the anvil of apotheosis. Now reforged, the Lord Ordinata had access to the great stores of knowledge in Azerheim, and years of research, following snippets of information, heavenly portents, rumour, and myth, had led Carathian to believe that the item buried in the bowels of Carax-Unclad could pose a considerable threat to Sigmar's war should it fall into the claws of the Chaos Gods. When rumour reached him of Warden King Cavenheart's quest, he sought out the Duarden King in the dispossessed districts, impressed upon him the potential importance that the mountain held, and offered his aid to Scaly both in his quest and in the rebuilding of the fortress should the quest succeed. Although Duarden pride led initially to the dispossessed king refusing the Stormcast offer of assistance, Spirit Walker was persistent, and thus Scaly eventually yielded to the Ordinata's insistence, and the Spirit Walker was permitted to travel with the dispossessed force. It was fortunate, too, that he was. Before the small force departed Azerheim, and unbeknownst to Warden King Cavenheart, Carathian had made contact with the Black and Maelstrom Vanguard Chamber and its Lord Aquilor, Idenor Drakestalker. The Lord Ordinata impressed upon Drakestalker the importance of the mountain and charged the Stormcast scouts with scouring the region immediately surrounding the Yorn Mountains in Chamon for any chaos, and in particular Skaven, forces that may have posed a threat to the Duarden's quest. Riding the etheric winds, the blackened Maelstrom Vanguard Chamber surged ahead of the dispossessed force and swept the path clear of foes. The task proved somewhat easier, however, than either the Spirit Walker or Lord Ackle or Drakestalker had anticipated. Indeed, the closer the vanguard got to the mountain, the more it appeared that the immediate surrounds of the former Duarden holder had already been cleared of potential threats. The reasons of this would not become apparent until the dispossessed eventually entered the mountain. Thus, the journey of the Warden King and his followers was largely without incident, the perils of the Shamon environment notwithstanding. Upon sighting the coppery glow of the mountain for the first time, Scully Cavenhart and many of his Longbeard bodyguard wept openly. At last, their ancestral home would live once more. The Warden King and his followers were completely unaware that the city was in fact already very much alive. The Frozen Hope. Fleeing Cornate Reavers during the time of chaos, the Darkling Coven of the Frozen Hope had discovered the ruined and abandoned mountain city and recognised it for the excellent defensive potential it could offer against the rampaging forces of chaos. The Frozen Hope were the remnants of one of the great elven cities of Ulgu laid low by the incursions of the Chaos Gods. A particularly proud people, the mistress of the Coven had refused to enter Azerheim, as had so many of the elven refugees from the Realm of Shadow had done, instead trusting to her own people's resilience and determination to see their empire rise once more. Their flight led the Darklings to the mountains of Shamon, following in the wake of an Order Serpentis enclave that had settled in Shamon many years earlier, in order to hunt and capture the unique draconic creatures that frequented the realm of metal from the Order for the Order's arcane breeding pits. In the ages since the Duarden had fled Baraklad, the flow of molten metal, fed by the underground tributaries excavated by the Skaven a millennia before, had settled into a massive lake of glowing liquid metal in an amphitheatre at the mountain's heart. At the far end of the oppressively hot cavern chamber, the doors of Grungni lay half submerged in the red-hot steel. The dull blue glow of the warding runes mingled with the heat haze that rose from the lake to play about the massive chamber, casting arcane shadows that writhed with an unholy life. Here the Darklings settled, safe from their pursuers above, to conduct their rituals and blood rites. The sorceress who commanded the coven, Sheila Darkspite, was one of a more martial mind than many of her sisters, and although the mystery of the doors of Grungni gnawed at her, she was acutely aware that the coven needed to fortify its position before she could pursue such esoteric concerns. The Darkling sorceress sent word to her disparate kin summoning them to the newfound stronghold. Through long-standing debts and favours owed, Shaila enlisted the support of the Order Serpentis as scouts to protect her growing enclave and to guard the various elven pilgrims she had summoned to her side. A task the Drakespawn Knights continued to perform across the ages, thus explaining the relative ease of Warden King Cavenhart's approach. Several sisterhoods of the Daughters of Cain took charge of the spiritual needs of the growing elven enclave, the glowing molten lake in the Chamber of the Doors offering new and unique sacrificial opportunities for the blood rites of the cult. Indeed, by the time of Sigmar's War and the end of the time of chaos, the lower levels of the once great Duarden city were home to a thriving elven community. Just as in the previous age when the culture of the Duarden had constructed the great city and had adapted to the unique environment surrounding Caraxunclad, so too did the Frozen Hope's rituals and myths evolve over time to incorporate the elements of the world they now inhabited. Captured foes were sacrificed to the Darkling Lords, the Queen of Shadows, and to the embodiment of once great Cain in pools of molten metal, and Kaila's eternally young body was encased in the gleaming metal and gemstones of what was once Caraxunclad. Thus it was, when Warden King Cavenhart and Lord Ordinata Spirit Walker arrived, they found this sizable community already in place in the lower levels of the Duarden King's ancestors' great citadel. So, that's the beginning, obviously, of the war against chaos and the early stages of Sigmar's War. And that's where Moltenheart was at that point. Next time we'll look at how the Darklings and the Dispossessed met, and whether or not that was successful. You could probably assume wasn't great initially. Hopefully you're enjoying these little snippets of my own little bit of the realms. If you're interested or you want to ask me any questions, feel free to do so. I'm the real Gotrek on Twitter. Yeah, talk to you next time. Bye.